and welcome to Love, Light, and Healing with Colette Lopane Capella. I am Colette Lopane Capella, licensed mental health counselor and founder and director of New Day Vitality in Larchmont, New York. I love and I get so excited being able to do this show and bringing it to the public. We're sort of in a different platform, different times now. We're all online and not at the studio, but it is still awesome and so exciting each episode to bring on a new expert guest who shares their knowledge and their advocacy as well for mental health and wellness. Today, very exciting, we have our special guest, Lauren Tetenbaum, who is a psychotherapist, LMSW, correct? Yep.
Yeah.
Who is also in the niche and the work that I particularly specialize in as well. So I'm super excited today to have you on and to hear from you and to share your wealth of knowledge and compassion with our audience. So welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. We've been talking for many months now via email, and your energy is just so lovely and light, and I'm so excited to be here. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm so excited you're here. So tell the viewers a little bit about yourself.
Sure. So as you said, my name is Lauren Tetenbaum. I am a licensed social worker, also a former lawyer, which is the JD in my Zoom name here. And the PMHC stands for Perinatal Mental Health Certification, which is the area that I know you also feel very passionately about, which basically means helping women in the reproductive life cycle during and after pregnancy and with parenting. And beyond my work, I am a New Yorker, I'm a millennial, I am a Cuban Jewish woman, daughter, sister, wife, mom, friend, and my private practice is called LAT Counseling.
Perfect. Thank you. Thank you. Tell us a little bit about your roles as a therapist and as an advocate for women.
Sure. So as a therapist, I engage in CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy, and also feminist therapy with clients. What I love about social work is the emphasis that the profession allows and even encourages when it comes to advocating on behalf of individuals and communities. When I was in grad school a long time ago, back in 2009, I even received an award from the National Association of Social Workers in recognition of my dedication to advocating on behalf of women. And though I served in various roles professionally since then, I've always maintained that dedication to advocacy. And what I mean by that in my day-to-day is not only engaging in individual therapy, support group facilitation, et cetera, on the individual level, but really advocating on a macro level to create positive change on behalf of women and girls. So I frequently speak on topics. I write a lot about them, and they range from paid parental leave, gender equity in the home, improving workplaces to make them work for women, all of the above and more. And it's truly my pleasure and privilege to use my platform to advocate in this way.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you. And how did you personally and professionally, like what did your background lead you to this work? I think we all sort of feel like this purpose and this drive and this connection. I know for myself, I did. What was yours?
Yeah, I think from a young age, my parents truly, I give them a lot of credit, instilled in me empathy and recognizing that I was privileged in a lot of ways and that I could use my voice to help those whose voice wasn't as loud. And in particular, I always wanted to help women and immigrants. My mom is a first generation. Well, she was born in Cuba, actually. So her story and the story of my grandparents and having to flee more than one country always stuck with me. And I always had the feeling that, I was lucky to be born in this country. It's a matter of luck. And I felt like, well, what if I had been born elsewhere? Or what if I didn't have certain resources that I did have? So that empathy really led me to give back. And when I even was in high school, I interned at Planned Parenthood. I was the president of the Women's Issues Club. I studied gender studies as a minor at college. And when I took a women in law course, a light bulb went off and I said, wow, I can really make a difference as a lawyer in the legal industry. And then I went to law school and I really didn't like it, to be honest. So in looking for more ways to do direct service work and have a more social emotional approach to working with clients, I also pursued my master's in social work, and it led me to where I am today. After a few different jobs, I practiced immigration law for many years. I always maintained a robust pro bono practice working with survivors of trauma, of domestic violence. And then I became a mom in 2016. And I decided to focus on supporting other working parents because it was really hard for me, to be honest, as an ambitious yet very hands-on and involved parent. I didn't think it had to be that hard. So I felt a calling to offer that kind of support to people, the support that I wish I had had. And that was heightened when the pandemic happened.
Yep.
So I decided to leave the corporate world in 2020 and go full-time into social work private practice, supporting women, especially millennial moms like myself and other young women starting out in their careers and dating lives, and really supporting their mental health because I saw the need for that.
I love how you brought up empathy. And I've shared this before, I think actually on the show, that I read, and I'm going to have to find it, this study where they talked about what's the difference between, a mediocre or a good therapist and a great therapist. And this study was awesome because it was a very long one. And through all the research, what they found was it didn't matter where you went to school, how long you went to school, how seasoned you were, how long you were in practice. It was your level of empathy. That was the difference between a good and a great therapist. And I love that you mentioned that because I think that brings us just back to basic, right? It's just so profound that empathy can be a game changer for so many who perhaps never even felt that before in the past.
Totally. And they also say the most important feature of therapy is the relationship you have with the therapist. And I take that to heart. And it's so important to have someone in your corner, especially if you never had that before. Yeah. So
thank you. Thank you for what you do. My heart's smiling. So tell me a little bit more about your clients and who you work with and the work that you do. I think we overlap a little bit. It's very similar, but to share that a little bit more with the viewers.
Absolutely. So I primarily work with women, although I do work with some men and some couples that are heterosexual couples. So there's a man. Primarily, though, my two main demographics are young women in their 20s, some are in college, and then moms who are in their 30s, whether they're new moms, really no matter how many years, weeks, months postpartum. I work with a lot of moms. And while they're different clienteles, a lot of the issues are the same. I help them through anxiety that they're experiencing related to pressure that they feel, to meet societal expectations of being, nice and not saying no to things. If they're not being treated properly at work, like getting the fair wages or paid what, their male counterparts are paying or the non-parents are paying. And I work a lot on helping them assert themselves, their boundaries, their values. A lot of women we know anecdotally and from data research, they struggle with communicating. They don't want to seem like they're pushy or needy or asking for too much. But as a result, they have lower self-esteem. And it's really, again, like we were saying before, they feel like no one is supporting them. And I am so privileged to be able to provide that support.
You feel seen, validated. That's everything. Why is it so important for you to work with moms?
So the short answer is because I am a mom and I know how lonely that can feel. I'm a mom of two. My son is 6.5 and my daughter is 4 this week, actually. And I was a literally licensed mental health professional, a working parent coach. And in my 6.5 years of momming, I have struggled at times and I had the knowledge, the resources, et cetera. So I want to be that support to the people who need a little help because everybody does.
Yep.
When you're a new mom, it's so hard to even get out of the house, right? When you're a working mom, you feel like all the systems are stacked against you. Moms often feel like they've lost their identity. They don't know who they are beyond partner, parent, professional. We know from the data that up to 1 in 5 women experience a perinatal mood and anxiety disorder. We know that millions of moms have left the workforce since COVID began and that their anxiety and depression levels are really heightened. And it doesn't have to be this way. It shouldn't be this way. Moms shouldn't feel that they're alone. And that's why we do what we do. I think a large part of it, right?
Exactly. You hit the nail right on the head. You're very passionate about the work that you do. I can feel it. I see it. I love it. Tell me why you love this work. Like why are you a therapist? Like what's the drive behind, what's your purpose?
Yeah. I love this work because I'm able to make a difference in an individual's life, which is enough. There's a proverb, if you make a difference in one person's life, you make a difference in the world. And I believe in that. And fortunately, I've been able to make a difference in many people's lives. As we said earlier, it's not just the individual level, but also the macro level, society, right? Through therapy, through advocacy. And I do feel very lucky because I care deeply about my clients. Everyone is interesting in their own way. Everyone has flaws, myself included, but truly people are so interesting. And I get to see the work that my clients are doing to engage in self-reflection, in self-improvement. And I get to be that person cheering them on, calling them out as needed. And it's so empowering and inspiring for them and for myself as the therapist.
I love that. Love it. I like this question. This is an awesome question. What advice would you give to your younger self?
It is a really good question. And I think a lot about it. I would tell myself a couple things. The first thing I would tell myself is to take deep breaths, maybe take a moment, maybe a couple hours. And I give this advice to clients, and it's actually a form of the DBT skill, the stop skill, right? Pause and mindfully proceed. Because if something is triggering a heightened emotion, maybe it's an email from a colleague or a friend or something, and it could even be a positive emotion, but any kind of heightened emotion, don't react right away. Because even just taking a couple of deep breaths and thinking through how you want to respond instead of react can make all the difference. And often what's upsetting us or triggering us in the moment really doesn't even matter the next day or even a couple of hours later. So that's something I would tell myself because, I've struggled with anxiety my whole life and that sense of urgency of needing to respond and needing to, get ahead of the game and all that. And as I've gotten older, I've realized that it's a lot more meaningful to mindfully proceed.
Love that.
And related to that, the other piece of advice is to not doubt that you're making the right choice if you make it based on your values. I've had a lot of, hard decisions that I've made throughout my life related to work, and I've ruminated over things. But truly, once I made decisions based on and in line with my values, I never looked back. And so it's really important to engage in those exercises of figuring out what is important to you and then act accordingly.
Great advice. I love it. Stay true to yourself. I love this question too, of course, because it's the name of the show. But what does the phrase love and light mean to you personally?
So it actually, I'm smiling because it reminds me of a friend I had when I studied abroad many years ago in Italy. This friend is Italian, and so she came up with silly nicknames for all of the American friends. And she would call me peace and love because she could see that I always tried to be kind. And I've never forgotten about that. Again, I'm not perfect. Nobody is. And the advice I just mentioned, I still give myself that advice daily, right? But I do always strive to be inclusive, empathetic, generous. And I really genuinely want the world to be a better, lighter, more loving place. So I hope that I give off that peace and love and light energy.
We vibe so well. By the way, this is all this is all me as well. I love it, love it, love it. I'm like smiling so big, my cheeks are hurting during this interview. Thank you so much for being on today's episode. You have shared a wealth of knowledge and compassion and empathy and love, and I appreciate it, and I'm sure the viewers do as well. Do you mind sharing with the viewers how they can get in contact with you?
Absolutely. My website is latcounseling.com, and my email address is lauren@latcounseling.com. And I'm also on Instagram @thecounselor, LAUR, because as a lawyer, as a social worker, therapist, advocate, I provide counsel to clients, and it's truly my pleasure and privilege to do so.
Thank you so much for being, again, a part of today's episode and sharing everything that you did. It was awesome and amazing to finally meet you and really interact versus the email. Until next time, love and light. Thank you, my friend.
Thank you.